Welcome back, CSC 103, to part 2 of our HTML and CSS intro. Real basic stuff here. So let's go in here and let's do some CSS. Whole different language. This is HTML, and they use these tags, and they have quotes and all that kind of stuff. Now we're going to go into CSS. And on the first line here, I'm just going to target body. You don't have to put any tags on it, just put body. And then just like, well, I don't think we did anything with this yet, but we're going to use curly braces. You're going to put a opening curly brace, and then hit enter. And it should make a pair of curly braces. And this is where you're going to put some stuff in here. And you can see that it's like auto-filling in here. But we're not going to do that yet. So I'm going to go in here. Now it has a wavy line. It's not red. It's saying that there's nothing in there. So it's empty right now. So we're going to put width. We'll put width in here. Now this is CSS. And I'll just put 500 px like that. Now you can have a space here, or you don't have to have a space here. But you have to have these together. You can't have a separate space there. Now, let me show you what I mean. If I go here and I refresh, you see that's going out again. It's not recognizing the 500 pics. With CSS, you have to have the unit together like that. So you have to have it together. So that's saying there's a width of 500 pics. And let me just show you something quick. I'm going to go to W3 Schools. And this is a great resource. I'm going to go to CSS. And you could go to HTML as well and look up HTML. But here's CSS, here's CSS syntax. And this is telling you the syntax. There's a selector, which we used body. You can use H1. Here's opening curly brace, closing curly brace. And you could put multiple declarations in there. Sometimes this is called a rule as well. This whole thing, I call it a declaration block. But it says a CSS rule consists of a selector and a declaration block. So I guess technically, this is declaration block that can have multiple declarations. And this is the selector. And this whole thing, which we sometimes call a style, is also called a rule. So this is a CSS rule, selector, declaration block, declaration, declaration. And sometimes we just call them styles. So there's a style for color blue, font size 12, whatever. That's talking about a headline. And we can do that for a headline. But for a body, we're going to give a background color, and we have a width. So we already have that property value kind of thing going on. So I'm going to go back here. There's our property. There's our value. Now let's make another one. Let's type background, and it should fill in for you. Background color. Sometimes you could get away with just using background because that's like a shorthand, but we use background color. And you should have the colon, and it should end with a semicolon. And they're very important to end with a semicolon because then whatever's after that doesn't work if you forget the semicolon. A lot of times I'll get emails and they'll be like, this isn't working, and I'll just look down the list and I'll see, well, you don't have a semicolon. So we're going to put something in there, and I'm just going to type in a name. I'm going to type in antique white, and it'll come up, antique white. And then if you want to change it, you could go on here and move around and change anything, and then pick a darker color and then hit enter. I'm just going to click off it. I'll leave it as antique white for now. So that'll change the background color. I'm also going to do something. I'll put a margin on here. Margin. And if you just put margin, it's all around. They also have margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right. I'm just going to use margin, which will be the same all around. So you only put one value for margin, although you can put in multiple values specifying the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, for now, we'll just put in one margin. So it's a colon, and then the value, 36 pics. We'll do that for now. And we'll put a semicolon. Now remember, just if you're concerned about how big is this stuff, pixels, 72 pixels is about an inch. So this is about a half an inch it should put on there. Somewhere around there when you see that. So we have 3 declarations here in our declaration block for our rule for body. So let's preview it. You can see what happened. It pushed it away a little bit. It created that margin. Here's the margin. And there's the background color of the antique white. So that's what we have so far. So that's a little taste of CSS. So we have CSS. And keep in mind, too, that if you say, oh, I want to change the name to styles or something. Like let's say you want to change the name to styles. Don't do this. But let's say you want to rename it and you want to call it styles. Sometimes I'll call it styles. Well, now the name is styles, but you're linking to style. So guess what's going to happen when I refresh this? It won't work because it's not linking to the right file. So I would have to call this styles as well. Now you don't have to do that, but just make sure that this name matches up with that name because they go together in this head element to kind of style your page. And that's where we'll do a lot of our design work. We do a lot of design work here to kind of lay out things and colors and fonts and all that kind of stuff. So let me refresh it. This is what it should look like. And what we'll do is we'll do a little more CSS with part 2, and that's it. We're just trying to match some of this stuff to the colors a little bit. And again, it's just real basic HTML, real basic CSS if you haven't worked with it before. And again, we're working in a new tab here. If you ever lose your tab, you close it by accident, you could just go here and go to your web view. This is your web view here. Now, this is still showing hello world because I never ran it again. Now, you only have to run things to see it here. So if I run it, you're going to see it in there a little bit. And then I open this up in a new tab, and there it is. There's my new tab. So that's all you need. For part 2, we'll just kind of finish this up, and I'll show you how to submit it. We'll submit it the same way we did with our Python stuff. We'll just highlight this and send it in. Go to your code tab, highlight that, send it in, and then I'll go look at it. And if you have any problems, email me this. Just send me that, and I'll look at it right away and get back to you, because it's really easy to do that. Also, tell me what class you're in so I know. So to get back into CSS, here we are. Now, if I put something in body, that's going to affect everything. So if I want to affect this size here, I could go in here and put font size, colon, and then I'll just put 110%. I'll use a relative value there instead of using pixels or anything. I'll do 110%. And what that means is anything within the body elements, all this stuff within the body elements, now it won't affect the image because there's no text in there, because there's no font size in an image. But if I go here and refresh, it'll make all our text just a little bit bigger. And all this sizing and stuff we can kind of wipe out and redo, but for now, we'll leave it as is with their default sizes. A couple things we'll do here is we'll put a nice little border on our picture, and maybe we'll make our colors, our top 2 colors, kind of match things from in here, like use a nice orange color, and I don't know, maybe a blue color, a green color, whatever. So it matches colors in your photo. Now, maybe you used other photos. So I'll use maybe kind of an orange, a deep reddish orange, and then maybe a green here because there's green. You could use blue too, whatever you want. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's get back. We're going to do that with CSS. Now we're going to do the H1, the H2, the paragraphs we're going to leave alone, and then we're going to target the image and put a border on there. So we're going to do that in CSS. So we don't have to do anything right now with our HTML. Our HTML is done. It's our structure. It's our basic content. So we don't do a lot of design work in the HTML file. We do it here. So after body, I'm going to hit return and type H1, and I'll do an opening curly brace and then hit return so that there's a pair of curly braces. And here we'll put a color, and I'll put color, and that's all you get to do is color. It's not font color, just color, and I'll put orange. I'll put a common color name, and I'll put a semicolon. Now, right now, it's going to be orange. Now, let's see what that looks like. You don't have to hit run. I'll go here, refresh it. Now, that looks a little light. I want a deeper orange color. I don't want that light orange color. So now, you can kind of look over here, but what you can do to alter this color is just click right on this swatch and then move this around. And, you could go darker orange here, or you could even move this thing, and I'll go more into the red. Move that kind of rainbow slider there, the hue, and I'll move that more into the red, and I'll bring kind of a deeper burnt orange color in there. And the further I go to the right, it'll make it more red. So let's try that. Now, to get out of here, just hit enter. Okay, so now it's showing a hex number. Remember hex? This is a hex number. Now, it's not using those nice numbers we were using. It's showing an E6, it's showing a 6A, and an 05. Now, remember, 05 is 5. So there's 3 numbers here for red, green, and blue. So the red is E6. So if you remember what E is, that was almost like 14 16s. And then there's 6 1s. And then there's 6 16s. And then there's 11 1s or 10 1s. And so on. So a little review of hex colors. That's where they're used right here, hex colors. And if I go in here, I don't think it's, it's showing RGB values, so 230. So that would be something like 14 16s, whatever that is, and then adding 6 to it, which would be 224 plus 6 would be 230. And then this one is 6 times 16, which I think is 96 plus 10. I think A is 10, because remember, there's no 10 in hex. They only go up to 9, so they use A. It's a single digit, so then that's how they get the 106, and that's 5. So those are your RGB values in hex. Little review of that from early in the semester. But anyway, let's go here and check it out. Oh, that looks better. Pulls in that nice color there. You can even go more of a, if you want to go a little more of a tomato color, you can even bring it more into the red over here and bring it a little deeper. And hit enter, and then I'll refresh it. Now that looks a little deeper. Now I could either use a blue, maybe a green color, because there's green in here for my H2. So I got to target H2. I'll go down here and do H2, space, make sure you put a space here, and then an opening curly brace, and then hit return so you have a pair. And I'll just put color, colon, and then I'll just put green. Now green will just be a generic green, but if you're looking over here, maybe you want to go something that's kind of like a little more yellow green, and maybe something like down here. Try something like that. And I'll hit return. We'll see how it looks. And I'll just go up here, refresh it. And that looks nice. It's pulling in green from there. And you could certainly get away with a blue color, maybe the blue of the sky. If you wanted to try blue of the sky, you could just go in here and just kind of move this up here and get kind of a sky color. I'm kind of looking at that. And I'll go here. I don't know if I hit return. No, I didn't hit return. Did I hit return? Let me go here, hit return, and let me try it again. Refresh. There, now it's getting that blue color. So what looks better, the blue or the green? I think the green looked better. So I'm going to go back, and let's see if I can undo. Command Z or Control Z. There it goes. Back to the color I had by undoing, and I'll refresh this, and that's the way it looks now. Now the last thing we'll do is we'll just put a little border on our image. So we can do that from CSS. We could target image, IMG. Now, if you had multiple images on a page, you might want to give it a special name. But for now, we only have one image on the page. So I'm just going to target the only image on the page and do curly brace, hit return, 2 curly braces. And remember, all these should have semicolons at the end to separate them from the one after it. So with image, I'm just going to go in here and put border, colon. Now you put 3 values for a border. You put the width, the color, and the style. Now the style is just going to be solid, so I'm just going to put solid. And you don't put commas. You just put them with spaces in between. So it's going to be solid, and spell that right. And then I'll just put black for now. Now you could put a green color or something that matches, but I'll just use black for now. So I'll type in black. No quotes, but you got to spell it right. There's black, and it's coming up with the color there. And then I'll put another space, and I'll put a thickness, and I'll put in pixels. And I'll try something like 2px for now, and see how that looks. And I'll put a semicolon. So 3 values for border: the style, the color, and the thickness. And let's go here. Let's refresh it. That looks okay. I could go a little bigger. I could even put a color in here if I want, but that's fine. Maybe I'll just make it 3 pixels. Change this to 3. Go back up here, refresh it. It's a little thicker. So that's fine. That's all you have to do for this exercise. Again, it's just a little intro, little basics of here's some HTML. We have some headlines, paragraphs, and an image. Now in our next exercise, we'll work with some lists. So we work with them a little bit, and we'll kind of change the layout a little bit in our next exercise. But this is just real basic. It should be an easy one. So for Thanksgiving week, this should be easy to do. So that's all you have to do here. It should look something like this. You can have your own image in here. You don't have to use my image, but it should look something like that. And again, if you have any problems, email me this address. Now, you can send me the address of the finished one, but then I can't see your code, and then I have to go back into your Replit again and find your username. So just send me this one. Just give me the URL of the code. So make sure you use your code tab. Highlight this. Doesn't matter if it's the CSS or HTML or anything like that. Just highlight that, copy it. Copy that, just like you did for Python when you're done. And then go back into coursework and go down to Unit 12. I just opened this up for now, and I actually have to update some things here anyway. But I just opened this up just to show you what to do. You're just going to go into here, and you're going to add a comment, and you're going to insert a link, because we're using a link from Replit, and paste it here. And I always appreciate if you change current window to new window, so that I can click on it and it opens up in a new tab and it doesn't take me out of my warren. So hit save. And that's it. That's all you have to do for this exercise. So this is an easy one, and it's just real basic. It should be fun. It shouldn't be as troublesome as working in Tinkercad or even how Python can be. just as long as you have your colors looking nice. So here's my finished code here. Ends in an HTML tag, body. Again, just a couple elements here. H1, H2, P, and then an image. And the longest thing we have here is this image tag. Now I just want to point out our image element does not have a closing tag. There's no closing IMG. Some of them do not, but these do. This does not. And it has attributes: source attribute, with attribute, and an alt attribute. So that's your HTML. It's index.html. It's linking to styles.css, and these are styles. We have different rules here. We have a rule for body, a rule for H1, a rule for H2, and a rule for IMG. Image, sometimes we just say they're styles. They're declaration blocks with multiple declarations inside. This has 4, this is 1, 1, 1. And that's about it. And how do you learn this stuff? You just keep looking it up. But if you ever need to know any of this stuff, W3 Schools, CSS, borders, colors, all this kind of stuff in the very beginning. This is where I learned everything about CSS myself getting started. So W3 Schools was always a big help with HTML. They have Python, all kinds of stuff in here. We'll even do some SQL in here. So it's a great little resource in here. It's not perfect. There's other things out there, but it's a nice quick one to go into and try out things. They have these little tryout things. So you can kind of see what they look like. You could look up colors if you don't know what color names are and things like that. All kinds of stuff in here. So a lot of good resources in W3 Schools. So that's all you have to do. Once you have your link in there for that, you're done. So that's your exercise 15, and that's all you have to do for hands-on for Unit 12. There's going to be a little quiz, and there's a little discussion where you just do a little HTML in there. So for Thanksgiving week, it should be a nice short assignment to do. So we'll see you in Unit 13.